I'm going to run over to YouTube world and grab the link for the show and put that link on the Facebook fan page because according to certain Republicans who are no longer on my Facebook friends list, some people are threatened by things that I say, Jack.
Did you put the link up, or because
Not
I see
yet.
a link?
Yep,
Okay.
it's coming up in a second, but I just got to get to the live shows, and I'll get the. It says I got the link now. That's good.
Okay.
It is copied. All right. Now I'm rocking and rolling. So that's good. Jack, I couldn't help but notice the other day as I was cruising around the aforementioned offenders page.
I thought you were going to say Thomaston Middle School.
No, God help us. No, they won't let me over there anymore, Jack. They won't let me there. No, I couldn't. That's not how to spell weir, Jack. Yeah, the individual in question was lamenting to another individual that he can't see me anymore. Can you imagine that?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And didn't understand why.
Can you imagine? I mean, what a shame. What a shame that I've taken away his little toy.
Yeah. Okay, I shared that picture on my page. Okay, are we live, Seth?
We're live, buddy.
So let me run something. Right. Let me run something by you that's bizarre.
Something else that's bizarre?
I'm missing 2 teeth.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for new ones to be put in.
Yeah.
And somehow all my ads today on Facebook came up for dental fake teeth covering.
Yeah. Freaking amazing, dude.
Now, how does that? I haven't mentioned it to anyone on Facebook. I haven't mentioned it to anyone at all. And yet somehow they know that I'm missing 2 teeth.
How do they fucking know? How does this happen? It can only be smart devices. You know what I'm saying? It can only be smart devices listening in.
Possibly a facial shot that people are doing screenshots of us at some point. Maybe that we don't even know. They're doing screenshots and
How
bam.
Is this possible?
I know.
How is it possible? I mean, it's not like I don't think you're searching on you're not searching for dental products, are you? That never showed up in the search window?
And I got 5 ads this afternoon, Seth.
5
ads for different kinds of things you put in your mouth, though.
How insane is that? Man,
yes.
There's a creepiness to that.
No shit.
There's a creepiness to that. So you had some dental work done.
Right.
A week after or 2 weeks after you had the dental work done, your Facebook feed is now filled with ads.
2 months. 2 months ago.
Has it been that long?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, not for nothing, Jack, but where the fuck is your dentist with the rest of your work?
Well, I'm going to call him and ask him and say, where's my teeth?
It's the lab.
Well, what it is that cadaver bone healing into the,
That can't take that long, man.
Oh, it takes a while. But you're right. I mean, I think it's time that I need my teeth.
Right. I mean, imagine if you were an anchor on the evening news, let's say.
I am.
Right. The Friday evening news.
Yes.
Speaking about the Friday evening news, buddy, you know who's in trouble? Andy Cuomo. Matilda's little boy, Andy.
He is so fucked.
and his intransigence. He's just, no, I'm not leaving.
Seth, I have to tell you something. I often will judge somebody by their face.
Yeah.
And he truly has the face of a scumbag.
It's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for him, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. He does. He has the face of a scumbag.
It's kind of like he looks like the guy from The Godfather.
Yes. Yeah, he looks like a hitman.
And it's really unfortunate. And I got to tell you, he's not winning over any friends. There's not a lot of people. Have you noticed the deathly silence in the world of people coming to Andy Cuomo's defense?
Yeah.
Where are they?
Oh, who do we have here? Noel.
Noel says he looks like Chico. He does look like Chico.
He does.
And the guy from The Godfather, who I can't remember what his name was. But, like if you spend your life in politics climbing the ladder on your dad's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, pretending to be New York political royalty. And then, he's got a law degree. He's not a schlub. He's a smart guy. He's a political animal because he grew up in a household where his dad was the governor from a very young age. And he always was the heir apparent. And now he has I don't think there's a more entitled dude in all of American politics than Andy Cuomo. And he's done. I mean, he's toast. The headline this evening, Schumer is calling for his resignation. Like basically the entire New York congressional delegation.
Plus, it's like woman 6 or 7 came forward, right, today?
Yeah, but there's a magazine that says now that there's about 30 of them.
Trumpian level.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand with that level of entitlement, I think, doesn't it?
Let's talk about Donald for a second. We know what New York State is doing. We'll probably talk about what's going to happen there because I'm a little worried about who's going to replace our friend there. But then,
I don't think the case goes away, though, does it, Jack? I mean, just because he's, just because he's older. Yeah.
No, but I wonder how much sympathy they'll have. So we have the Atlanta criminal investigation, which it's very much looking like it's going to be a RICO suit, which is the greatest news in the world. And
like a racketeering suit in Atlanta.
Exactly.
So in Atlanta, no, I guess the Atlanta State the Fulton County prosecutor, she can't file federal charges. That's got to be left up to the U.S. Attorney's Office, right?
Let me see. Let me see who Fulton County Attorney. That's Franny Willis.
Yeah.
Who he has not revealed yet who is under investigation for the probe. That's all that I have here.
Yeah, shocking.
And then we have, and you forget about these things, Seth. And then we have the Capitol riot investigation. Attorney General Karl Racine. He can be charged locally for helping incite the riot, and which will probably mean that both Giuliani and Don Jr. will be charged also.
Yeah.
Now, it's not clear, but it looks like a low-level misdemeanor charge.
Which means, you know what the scariest words in Donald Trump's more recent vocabulary is?
What's that?
You know, the most terrifying 4 words in his vocabulary at the moment are Attorney General Merrick Garland.
I know. That's going to be, but then again, that's on the federal level. That's the one. Here's the big thing about and plus there are these defamation lawsuits. Okay. Summer Zarvos, who he defamed her because she accused him of this and the other thing. And there are a couple of these defamation lawsuits. Okay, and
Was that
then
was that a countersuit to the rape allegation?
I believe so.
Yeah, and
But
then he
yeah,
said bad things about
yeah,
that person.
yeah. And then, of course, we have New York, which is both a civil and a criminal, right?
Yeah, yeah. The civil suit is being run from the New York State. The uh, now full plate New York State Attorney General,
Right.
uh, and um, and that's a civil suit that has along with it potential for criminality. And then the aforementioned Cy Vance Jr. You know that Cy Vance Jr. is only like the third guy in 80 years to have the New York State, New York City Attorney General's job.
Really?
Robert Morgenthau was in that job for almost 40 years.
That's amazing.
Robert Morgenthau prosecuted everybody.
Who is this woman, Lang, that's going to temporarily, I think, replace him?
Cy Vance?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Is he
Don't know.
elected or is he appointed?
Yeah, that's an elected. But in New York City politics, it's like in cases like that. I think in cases like that, you run. I think it's an elected position. It's so weird because it's like it could be one of those New York City political machine spots where you're like in the job forever and nobody runs against you because you just don't have the capacity to win the election running against the machine.
Mhm.
Because the Manhattan Democratic machine is just it's an absurdity. It really, it's the New York City Democratic machine is like, it's still a model of how to run a disciplined political machine, believe it or not.
Tammany Hall.
Tammany Hall.
So if there's no question, they're going to put hating Trump the way they do, they're going to put somebody in there that is very dedicated to fucking him up.
Oh, Jesus. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Well, I mean, politically, there's no way that you'd be able to not prosecute Donald Trump based on all of the evidence in front of him. Well, now come to find out that New York State has waived ironically enough, because of COVID, New York State waived some of the statute of limitation rules to extend because the courts were just jammed, right?
Right.
So New York State essentially hit pause on the statute of limitations and extended it out. And then New York State is looking into a loophole in the statute laws that say that if you weren't a resident of New York State for an extended period of time, let's just say, I don't know, 4 years, that you extend the statute by that amount. So if you're a resident of New York City, you take a break from being a resident, and when you're done with that break, regardless of where you are, the statute kicks in again. But that gives the Attorney General an opportunity to go after crimes that were back 4 years before Donald Trump took office, which is good because that time period is a little thing I like to call the height of his criminality.
Yes, that was certainly the pinnacle of his nobody's going to get me for anything I do situation.
Yep.
Well, that's wonderful news, Seth.
Wasn't that terrifying for you, Jack? Didn't it feel frustrating?
You know, if Facebook can recognize that I'm missing 2 teeth, do you think that Tiffany Trump is getting weight loss advertisements every day?
It's possible. It's possible that Facebook, too, is body shaming Tiffany Trump. Tiffany Trump, who was born in a building 2 blocks away from Tiffany's.
I love that.
Isn't that just the height of... I mean, if you were in a trailer in Searsport, Maine, and somebody's daughter was named Tiffany, and they lived near Tiffany's, you would think that they were American royalty, wouldn't you? You don't care what they do. You just buy the name and move on.
You know, Seth, you and I both watched this Netflix film about the art scam in New York.
Brilliant.
And I have to tell, that was Armie Hammer, right?
Was it really?
Yes. He was the one, I think, that owned the gallery, Armand Hammer.
Armand Hammer, you're right.
He was the gallery owner.
Yeah.
So anyway, to our folks that are watching, what's the name of this thing on Netflix, Seth? Do you know?
Oh,
let me find it. I'll find it.
Yeah. Now. I got it, bud. You go ahead and talk about it. It's essentially the story of a very high-end art gallery who got duped into buying a series of brilliant modern art forgeries.
July 1914.
Yeah, that's what happens, man. That's what happens when you open the tab on Netflix.
That's right. You get their header.
You get what they want to show you.
So there was a woman from Queens who came forward and had this backstory that was barely credible. And she had acquired a couple of Rothkos, a couple of maybe a Kandinsky or two, and then one or two other abstract expressionists in New York. And she had acquired this collection, and she convinced the gallery, who sold them for millions of dollars. And I'm not going to mention anything else about the story, but it's a brilliant film because you see the ultra uber wealthy of New York take it in the ass. And that is what I enjoyed more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that it happened to the class of people who Donald Trump aspires to want to be, and not Donald Trump. And the funny thing is, it could have easily happened to Ivanka and Jared.
Yes. But the wonderful thing, Seth, is that these people, these whining billionaires, are exactly the people that Trump would not let into their circle.
Or that they would not let into.
Yes, exactly. Those were the people that kept Trump out of the New York social scene.
Yes. Yeah. And he really, the view from Queens of these people, and having to listen to Fred Trump come back home. And Fred Trump apparently was just a ghastly human being. And these are people of refinement. And Fred Trump was always treated like the nouveau riche scumbag fuck that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter is that everybody saw him for who he was. And that always stuck in Donald Trump's craw, the same way that George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush was going to avenge his father's one term and was going to get Saddam Hussein no matter what. It's all this, our country pays the price in millions of lives and dollars for these people who have family vendettas.
Mm-hmm.
It's an obscenity.
It is.
It's an obscenity of modern American life.
And you notice in this film, Seth, the way they talk about, they can't believe that these paintings came through a Hispanic woman in Queens. This is exactly the same thing that Fred Trump had to put up with.
Right.
Saying Queens is like saying, what is it like saying, that you come from Alabama?
Yeah, it's like somebody from Camden thinking about what Rockland was like in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people from the Central Intelligence Agency that came up here to retire to Maine, mixing with the elites in Camden already,
Hmm.
and having to drive through Rockland and smell the sardine factory and spend a night in Myrtle's Tavern
Hmm.
and, and think differently of the people of Rockland. It's any suburb where there's a socioeconomic difference between you and them.
Right.
And it was really stark in this part of the world in the 1970s and 80s and parts of the 90s. It's
Hmm.
only until recently that those divisions have kind of calmed themselves.
Well, the
But
gentrification in Rockland and Belfast is astounding.
yeah, it is.
I mean, it's just absolutely astounding. And now
Yeah,
Camden, which was the center of Midcoast culture, is just a retirement community.
it is. And that's what happens. Now Rockland is the hip place to be.
Yep.
Imagine what happens when you take a smell out of a city and put a couple of very high caliber museums there. Look at that. And then maybe, Jack, it might be useful to go back in time, to hop in our little Jack and Seth time machine and go back in time and see if we can relive some of the arguments taking place in Rockland City Hall with those elected officials talking about attracting that economic energy to this part of the world. What did that conversation sound like with the old boys network in Rockland poo-pooing the museums and the restaurants and those other people
Mhm.
because they, the names of those families that have been here for generations? I
Mhm.
wonder what that sounded like.
Not very pretty.
No, and these are the things that make the difference between having a nice, livable, walkable downtown.
Right.
Not very simply, and not.
Let's talk about the 300,000 maskless, leather clad bikers in Daytona.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about in your house.
They wear masks and they
300,000.
wear Gore-Tex with knee
Sounds very
sliders.
good. Sounds very good.
Seriously, Seth, this is going to be another Sturgis.
They said that was responsible for a suit. These are all super spreader events, man. These are all super spreader events, and these people they don't really have it's a problem when people that don't understand science are also belligerent.
One of the quotes from one of the bikers was, "I'm an American. Nobody tells me what to do."
And that's it.
That is
and
it.
that's it right there. In a nutshell.
Yep.
That's it. And it's almost as if they're kind of like happy with their station in life, excuse me. And that freedom is being threatened by, I don't know, who's threatening that freedom? Jackasses. That's right. Thank you, Noel. Noel knows. It's astonishing to me.
And
how selfish.
Pete Bishop pointed out to me that everybody we know, the Harley gang up here, every one of them went to Daytona. So,
did they?
Oh, yeah. So if you're going to be hanging around a Harley shop, not a good idea for a couple of months. And then here's a beauty, Laura Trump. It turns out her dog rescue charity was funneling money into Donald Trump's pocket.
You're kidding.
No. Is this a trait? A family trait?
Yeah, of course. It's part of the grift, dude. They're all in on it. That's why they can't operate a charity in New York State anymore.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? Laura Trump.
Yeah, you know what the other part of the grift is, by the way? Donald, here's a separate story entirely, but something we gotta talk about. Donald Trump's businesses are going down the tubes very rapidly, right? Donald Trump's businesses are going down the tubes rapidly because everybody is watching him now. And he can no longer call up his CFO, whose sons are also going to be under indictment shortly, Alan Vasselberg. He can't call up Alan and say, call Vladimir and launder some more Russian mob money. He can't prop up his businesses with cash infusions from overseas anymore because he can't do it, because everybody knows he's a criminal and he's watching them. In the absence of those cash infusions that were his regular way of conducting business, combined with tax and bank fraud.
One more thing, Seth.
Yeah.
He made a lot of money licensing the Trump name.
Not anymore, Ian.
I mean, seriously, who would pay for the Trump name?
Not anymore, he won't. Not even the GOP supporters. He's trying to hijack the RNC's fundraising division.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
It's fabulous. It's all a grift for him. That means that 2022 is going to be a starved, ineffective, unorganized, messageless Republican effort to regain power. Hallelujah. Fabulous. Let him do it. So Donald Trump out of money, honey, and now we're going to get to see all of the Trump businesses start to fold. He is so leveraged. Yeah, sure, he owns a lot of real estate, but it's all tied up in loans that he tried to engage in fraudulent behavior to get.
And they are huge loans.
Yep.
That are going to be due within about 3 years. One of the biggest.
This is not the kind of, if he weren't an ex-president, totally would be dead.
Yep. I agree.
Totally dead.
Yep.
He would be Maxwell dead.
Yes.
Robert Maxwell dead.
Yep.
So his businesses, the Trump legend. I got in on, these Republicans have nothing. They have nothing to argue about. We've got a president that just passed landmark legislation that's popular with 75% of the American population. During a time in which there's horrific division amongst the American population. 75% of the people approve of this legislation. So these people, the talking heads on Facebook that you used to hear get real mouthy about Donald Trump are oddly silent, Jack. They're oddly silent, Jack. Where did they go? I'm so anxious to have a conversation with one of them. So somebody posts the other day, hey, why is Biden not holding a press conference? Where's the press conference? I think the prima facie argument is he's busy. He's busy. He's busy. He's busy saving the country.
Yep.
But I think the real, and this is legitimate, I think the real answer is he's like a 95-year-old man with Tourette's. And when he gets a question that pisses him off and he doesn't have somebody holding his hand. Oh, by the way, did I fail to mention his lifelong speech impediment that makes it difficult for him to get words out? And when they come out, sometimes they're a dog can jump out of it, or what they say in Sweden, a frog can jump out of his mouth.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, a frog can jump out of his mouth. I have a fear that there's medical news that we're not being told.
I agree. Not only I agree, I predicted it. I think that we didn't vote in Biden. We voted in Kamala Harris. And it was just a question of time.
I think we voted in anti-Trump.
We did, but
I do. I think we voted in anti-Trump.
Nobody could think that Biden could really survive that long as president. And
No.
in fact, that not answering questions from the press is exactly what you say it is an indication that he literally can't. Here's another beauty. Trump.org CFO Alan Weisselberg, your favorite guy, his former daughter-in-law claims Donald Trump showed naked pictures of women around to mourners and hit on her at a Shiva.
Are you kidding me?
No, it's the headline. That's what she
Alan
said.
Weisselberg's family, they're sitting Shiva, and this guy's showing naked pictures of women and hitting on them?
And hitting on his daughter, Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law.
What a fucking scumbag.
Do you want to explain to our Gentile audience what sitting Shiva is?
Yeah, you go to somebody's house, the person who dies, there's all sorts of food all over the place, and you go and you sit there, and the family sits in mourning, and they accept visitors, essentially. But it's considered gauche.
You know what gauche means in French, right?
It's the opposite of droite.
Yes, it's left.
Yes, it's the opposite of right.
Yes, exactly.
It's considered left.
R-I-G-H-T. Yeah.
Yes, it's considered left bank.
Yes.
Gauche, but not politically gauche.
Yeah.
To show naked pictures and try to get laid from one of the mourners. That's considered, that's like Wedding Crashers.
Exactly what I was thinking of. He says, dude, it's not weddings, it's funerals. That's where you're going to be successful.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
But could I ask you to lift your microphone just about an inch? It's rubbing on your jacket. Thank you, sir.
Better?
Infinitely. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you for pointing it out. But isn't that a wonderful little piece of news?
I guess Noel accurately asks, why does that surprise you? You know what, Noel? Funny you should mention it, Noel. Now that you mention it, it makes perfect sense. All right. Separate issue from hitting on Jewish women who are sitting Shiva. Separate. Honestly, if you asked me what the most gauche thing somebody could possibly do is, hitting on one of the mourners while they're sitting Shiva is got to be it's the worst thing I've ever heard. It's horrific. It's horrific, and yet absolutely 100% in line with who we know Donald Trump to be. Okay, separate issue entirely. I'm not sure if you want to talk about it now or later, but so we know that Donald Trump can't launder Russian money anymore, right? And we know that Meghan Markle and her husband, Harry, have just given an interview to Oprah in which they essentially called the royal family a collection of backward racists who go out of their way to make people's lives miserable. Are we forgetting Prince Andrew?
I think we may be. He may be on the back burner, so to speak, at the moment.
My favorite headline writing machine, the New York Post. Ghislaine Maxwell's brother reveals key detail about notorious Prince Andrew photo. And Ghislaine Maxwell's brother says essentially, hey, it looks like that portrait of whatchamacallit of Prince Andrew with the woman who he had sex with, who is now accusing him of having sex with her. That picture looks a whole lot like my sister's apartment. Well, where did Jack go? He's gone. Well, that's unfortunate. Jack, come back, will you, bud? It's no fun doing the show without you. Yes, Ghislaine Maxwell's brother, whose name is Ian, he's 64. And he also refused to rule out her calling Prince Andrew as a witness at her trial. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, I thought that was a wonderful, wonderful little tidbit. He says, I don't know anything about the photograph other than that I've seen it's been published. I know it's of interest to your listeners, but nonetheless, I'm not here to talk about that. So he got a little coy towards the end, and well, Jack is back, ready to join us again.
Seth, are you there?
I'm here, buddy.
You got rid of me.
No, I didn't.
I just disappeared.
You disappeared. That sounds like an existential kind of question, man.
If it wasn't you running the board, it would be.
No, because I was on actually a different page. I was reading an article then, so I wasn't. On the.
Seth, admit it. You hit the wrong button.
I didn't. I would love to. I would love to admit that I mistakenly got rid of you. I didn't mistakenly get rid of you. I don't think I've ever on purpose got rid of you. At any rate, Ghislaine Maxwell's brother, my friend Karen's best gal pal, apparently she's really good friends with this Prince Andrew guy and gets him laid periodically in her apartment. And Prince Andrew is going to be called as a witness, Jack.
Is that true?
In Ghislaine Maxwell's case. Ian Maxwell would not rule that out. Ian Maxwell, whose father, Robert, was found floating in the Mediterranean, not face down, but face up.
That says something.
He got whacked by the Mossad.
Ooh, what did he do?
He was getting mouthy about stuff he shouldn't get mouthy about in the press. And he also, like Donald Trump, owed money to a bunch of unsavory people. He was just he was like a very high level intelligence asset. It's funny. It just seems like intelligence agencies cultivate these high level assets, and is endemic the right word?
Yes, it is.
It seems like it goes hand in hand if you're
very much so.
Of income, I mean, the one person that I know that is extremely rich and extremely influential, Karen Nathanson Zucker, her husband Jeff Zucker, who ran CNN. CNN, the ultimate foe of Donald Trump. Jeff Zucker greenlit The Apprentice that made Donald Trump.
Let me ask you something. In terms of people, Donald Trump, every day or every week, there's somebody he hates, a new person to hate. Where do you think Jen Psaki ends up in this? I mean, seriously, she is an assassin. She is a Trump assassin.
Rock star. Oh. Hey, she says the guy from Fox made the mistake of asking a question the other day.
I know.
He says, how about the surge at the border? He said, and the woman that said some people are saying, she says, who's saying? Well, you heard the ex-president. Well, you heard former President Trump say that. She says, let me stop you right there. We don't take advice from former President Trump. Written in between, implied but not stated. Because he's a fucking asshole and a psychopath who almost destroyed our country if it weren't for us.
Yeah.
You fucking idiot.
She is wonderful. Notice that because she didn't mention Trump's warp speed, he went ballistic.
Fuck him.
But it's after. And did you see her response when they asked her about Space Force?
Right. It's like, she's like,
Oh,
right, she's like, is this guy a fucking moron or
yeah,
what?
I know.
And you want to know something, Jack? She's only getting better at her job. If you notice, she's getting better because she's less uncomfortable.
She is. She reminds me of Samantha. Worked for the UN for Obama. Oh, Powers. You know, good-looking redhead assassin. Smart.
When
you know?
when I was a little boy, I had a huge crush on Samantha Stevens from Bewitched.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Sure, she's also named Samantha.
Oh, great. Noel, if you're still there, I think maybe it's time you want to go take a shower.
Hey, Congress is leaning towards breaking up big tech. I'm not sure if you know this.
I don't know much about it. Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny. To me, this is like a little tug of war between who actually runs the fucking show. You know, while I think Congress should do something while they still can.
You're right. And that is a very, very major point, Seth.
Yeah.
When we talked about who really has the power in the country.
Yeah.
And it turns out it is not the government, it is big tech.
It is not the government, it is big tech. You're absolutely
and you
right.
know something, it's okay. Because if they want to, just like when they broke up AT&T,
yeah,
you know, it was wonderful. Every stockholder got stock in every company. I don't know what the hell Bezos is thinking with his anti-union thing. But maybe that's the same game, Seth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They think they're playing the same game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Power game.
You know that I have a huge problem with Facebook. I'm not the only one that has a huge problem with Facebook. Facebook is arbitrary. Yeah, Barbara Eden. Noel says, let's not forget Barbara Eden. God, Jack, was Barbara Eden not the most beautiful woman on 60s TV?
You know, I never watched TV in the 60s.
No, you didn't?
So I don't even know who she is.
She was an American actress, Barbara Eden, I Dream of Jeannie. Did you do a lot of TV work, or was it all commercials? And
it was rock videos, commercials, documentaries, and then keep in mind from 68 to 76, I was offshore.
In Sweden, yeah.
But I don't even know, you know who I had a lust for when I was probably 10 is Ava Gardner.
Oh my God, Ava Gardner.
Holy shit. In One Touch of Venus?
I would have loved One Touch of anything with her.
She was stunning.
Oh my God, the perfect Ava Gardner, I think. Let's roll back the tape, Jack. I don't think you can find a hotter chick in American history, including Bo Derek.
Why don't you run up a picture of her, Seth?
Ava Gardner.
Yeah, can you find her?
Wow.
With that cleft chin. Oh, she was.
Oh, boy.
I mean, she's no Tiffany Trump, but.
No. God, she was hot. And who was, well, here's the ultimate picture of Ava Gardner. It's Ava Gardner and Frankie. Right?
Yeah.
Frank Sinatra. They were an item. Oh, look how pretty she is. And who are some of her other contemporaries? The blonde bombshell. Let's see. Let's see if I can get this picture up there. Hope it's the right one, Jack. Ava Gardner. Barbie Benton.
No idea who that is.
No, Barbie Benton is like a 1980s hottie. Here's Ava Gardner. I'm going to push her to staging, and then we're going to show her in the stream. Here we go. Here's Ava.
We
Here's
should
Ava.
call this show Horny Old Men, Seth.
We should. There she
Oh,
is.
She is stunning.
Look
Can
at
you
her.
make her full screen?
Yeah, I can. That's going to take us down. God help us. We do. Oh, my God. Look at her.
It's still not. She looked better than that.
She did, but I
Yeah.
like the picture with Frank Sinatra. That's great.
Yeah.
She was a hottie.
Yep.
She really was. Boy, was she pretty.
Yep.
Ava Gardner. Now, who's another one? Who was another one that you absolutely loved?
Bridget Bardot, I lusted after.
Yeah, a little bit too French for me, my friend.
I don't know what that means.
Um,
Hairy armpits? What is it?
no, just different attitudes. I find the French arrogance a turn off at every level.
You're absolutely right. And the relationship, my experiences having lived there, is the relationship between men and women is probably the most unhealthy relationship between men and women in the world, including the Middle East.
Right. And we can talk about that in a second. The Middle East, where a woman wearing a burqa in the workplace is valued for her fucking work product,
Yeah.
not what she looks like.
Yeah.
Interestingly. And
Yes.
many Middle Eastern women will tell you, no, I don't want to take my fucking burqa off. I'll get paid less.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All three of them that are in the workplace, Seth.
Or driving.
Yes.
I get it. You're not going to get me to defend. Dude, I'm going after Donald Trump hammer and nail. You're not going to get me to defend the ISIS worldview of Sharia law.
Why didn't we annex Kuwait when we had the chance? That would have solved so many international issues. So many international issues. We wouldn't be dependent upon Saudi oil. We wouldn't have the kind of conflicts we're involved in the Middle East. It would have just solved absolutely every problem. And since we had invaded it and owned it, why didn't we just keep it? It would have avoided so much. It would have been so much easier to put the screws into Putin. I mean, it's just...
Right. And now we're in a position where, Putin with his New York State size economy of Russia and his dependence on natural gas exports and oil exports, in a time when all of transportation is about ready to start to become electric.
Yeah.
Fuck him.
Oh, is he screwed?
Fuck him right where he lives.
But then again, Seth,
when they ride that motherfucker's head out on the Kremlin gate, when that motherfucker's head's on the Kremlin gate, that's when I'll be happy.
Well, here's the thing. You're dealing with a very competent adversary. And he realized before anyone that the Third World War is going to be fought in cyberspace, well before the Americans did.
Well, it's ironic because it's American technology that made that happen.
Sure.
And, the thing about, you raised a very interesting point before that I think really kind of begs more conversation. And that is to say that we were talking about the movie that had the Netflix documentary that dealt with art heists, art fakes.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who was a student that made all the art was a middle-aged guy, but he had studied in New York in the 80s at, he might have gone to SVA or something like that, School of Visual Arts.
True, but keep in mind, he was a very famous artist in China.
Right.
And it's only when he came to New York that he was like a nobody, but he was a talented guy.
Spectacularly talented guy who couldn't figure out not to use a yellow paint invented in the 1980s on a 1950 Jackson Pollock,
right?
Considered bad form.
Yes. But nobody noticed. But nobody noticed that
because they didn't want to notice.
Yes.
moving beyond that, in the world to come, originality and being able to conceptualize big picture is going to be one of the most valuable human skill sets. That's why America will remain a global cultural and economic leader. We are watching an ascendant China that never had a fucking original idea in the past 2 centuries. These motherfuckers haven't had an original idea or contributed to the culture, the global culture, other than copying and stealing Western ideas and using slave labor to produce goods that we buy. That's their contribution so far.
I don't agree 100%. How about gunpowder?
What part of the last 200 years did you not hear?
I thought you said 2,000 years.
200 years. At any rate, it's not, what are they creating? What is it that they sell to the rest of the world that we didn't fucking come up with? Better yet.
Let me tell you something.
Better yet. You are from Romania. Right. Your last name's not Ceausescu, but you're from Romania. Maybe you're from the mountainous region.
Yes.
Somebody gives you a choice.
I like it.
They say, Nikolai, what country would you like to emigrate to of the following 3 countries? Would you like to emigrate to Russia? Would you like to emigrate to China? Or would you like to emigrate to the United States of America? Who is choosing to move to China or Russia? Nobody.
True. Now, Seth, to play the devil's, this 2 thing is a problem. To play the devil's advocate.
Yes, Mike Tyson.
You know, when Frost interviewed him, remember that? And
Everybody's
he said,
Mr. Frost.
And he says, Mike, tell me, why do you enjoy hurting people so much? And he says, Mr. Frost, is that I be in the hurt business.
Mr. Frost, I be in the hurt business.
So anyway, Seth, there's fallacy in you pointed out that Americans are the ones that come up with the ideas. That is really not very useful if some other country makes money selling those ideas.
Generally speaking, America is considered the global center for entrepreneurship. And so entrepreneurship has within its within the universe of its applied understanding, its knowing, its application, that not only do you come up with the idea, but you enter an ecosphere in which the idea can become manifest, and then you make the idea or product manifest.
That's right. And China sells it all over the world.
Right. What ideas is China coming up with other than TikTok, which is a Chinese government spying tool?
They're not. They may not be, but it's irrelevant in the discussion because they will steal and market whatever good ideas they find. And that's why there are so many Chinese students in the United States. It's not because they're brilliant, which they are. They have so many students who are here just collecting ideas.
Well, remember, when they say that you're 1 in a million in China, there's 1,000 other kids just like you.
That's right. Now, take that now. Look at China and their infrastructure investment. Everybody knows that American infrastructure is at the point of total failure. Texas is a wonderful example of that. and combined with deregulation. Okay.
Texas is a wonderful example of why Republican governance is a failure.
No shit. The greatest example, I think more than COVID, Seth, more than COVID, it's a more shining example of that kind of individualistic incompetence that Trump showed.
It really is. It really is. And Greg Abbott encompasses all of that.
Mm-hmm.
He really does. Which brings me to this next point that I wanted to discuss at the end of the show, now that we're coming up on an hour mark. This, I said earlier today, this generation of humans will be the last generation of humans that thinks of humanity as occupying only one planet. This generation of humans will also be the last generation of humans, potentially, and to be honest, Jack, potentially within the next few weeks, months, or this year, because of Perseverance, rover Perseverance. I think that's the name, isn't it? Perseverance?
Yes.
This will be the last generation of humans that thinks that life is exclusive to planet Earth. It is entirely possible that we will discover evidence of bacterium, or God forbid, actual bacterium, on the surface of Mars, stored in water there. And so I mention this only because the theme of this show has been, for better or worse, all of the technocultural revolution. Now, last week we talked about the fucking Hummer. In 2006, the Hummer was the biggest Republican fuck you could imagine.
Right.
2021, the Hummer is a statement of beautiful green development and sustainable technology. It couldn't possibly be a more jarring cultural fracture for the idiot that would smoke the cigar and say fuck you at the gas pump, filling up his Hummer H3, and the electric Hummer. It couldn't possibly be more jarring. One is aspirational for the macho man trying to compensate for something. The other is aspirational for the ultimate manifestation of American technology, know-how, and the quantum leaps that we're experiencing in terms of the quality of life that we can buy. Imagine the fundamentalist Christian who realizes that the narrative that, that Galileo de Galilee began to undo with his concept of the universe. Imagine what those fundamentalist Christians' reaction to life in other planets is going to be, and how that over the long term will fracture who we identify as the Trump voters' idea of their place in the universe and what life is all about.
Okay, Seth. I can address, or I can argue with a lot of the things that you say, but let me take the last one.
I live for it. Go for it.
If Donald Trump's presidency didn't convince them that they were on the wrong track, life on Mars isn't going to either.
Do you know what evidence of their own self-reflection of being on the wrong track is?
Tell me.
Their silence.
True. Okay, I understand that, but
we're talking about a humiliated population here.
To be able to accept Donald Trump's existence as the leader of the free world, you could have little green men coming up and taking selfies with Perseverance, and it wouldn't shake them.
Isn't that worldview comorbid with a fundamentalist worldview? Doesn't a fundamentalist worldview and fundamentalism really meaning a religious fundamentalism? Isn't that fundamentalist worldview go hand in hand with the type of political worldview that we're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So
now, the other thing, Seth, you say this is the last generation that this, that, and colonization. Well, first of all, millions of people fly to Florida every year for vacation.
yeah, it's a sunny place for shady people.
Yes, and it's a sunny, warm place. They get out of the Northeast, they get away from their problems. Mars is not the kind of place that you're going to go for a vacation for a number of different reasons. So
No.
the only colonization is going to be a scientific possible experiment, given the amount of time that we'll get there.
And
Blah, blah, blah,
and the
blah.
collection of rare minerals, if there are those there.
If there are any. Did you see they discovered the largest meteorite, the oldest meteorite in the Sahara in Algeria?
Yes, Black Beauty. I also, since you mentioned it, I want you to know that I watched a half-hour, 45-minute documentary on it. It was fascinating. And what it did, I didn't realize this at all, but there have been impacts on Mars that were so substantial that the ejecta went into solar orbit and eventually found impact on Earth as meteorites.
Yes.
And that's how Martian material ends up in the Sahara. They did a cross section of it.
The interesting thing is that 66 million years ago, when the dinosaur went extinct, that crater in the Yucatan, which basically is the Yucatan,
Yeah.
It's not in the Yucatan.
That crater, the Yucatan,
was a meteor. And the difference is that a meteor is something that comes from outer space. It goes toward the sun. It's circling. It gets so close to the sun that it explodes because of the heat, and it sends things through the solar system. And that was a piece of a meteor that exploded and went through the solar system and just happened to hit the Yucatan. And that was the nuclear winter that was created, and it killed like 80% of the life on Earth.
It was the end of the age of the dinosaur and the beginning of the age of the mammalian population.
Yes.
They were very small at the time.
I went for my colonoscopy yesterday.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this to you, and they put me out and woke me up in another room. And when they woke me up, I had this feeling of, why the fuck are you waking me up? From absolute oblivion, Seth. And I thought, this is what a baby must feel like when it comes out into the bright lights of the operating room and somebody slaps it in the ass and says, wake up. And all it wants to do is to go back to oblivion. And I think to myself, this has very much to do with life and death. So the question isn't where you go after you die. The question is, where were you before you were born?
Same question.
The same question. Would you like to answer that?
I have you know this. I had what is known as an NDE when I was very young, a near-death experience where I was outside of my own body. And I remember a blissful, worry-free, blissful place. Pure bliss. Experiential. The only words that I can use to describe it now are, it was experiential. It was something you have to feel and you cannot begin to express what the feeling is in the words that we have
Mm-hmm.
to express feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people who have had NDEs don't fear death anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I am terrified of dying just like every other rational human being. But I know something about the process that is of tremendous comfort. And it's not that I want to get back there again, like, when you're given Demerol,
Mm-hmm.
you want to get back to that Demerol high,
Oh boy.
or any opiate, you want to get
Yep.
back there.
Yep.
Imagine like a spiritual opiate. That's an interesting way to put it. A spiritual opiate, and an opiate that puts you in a place of such spectacular oneness with the universe and disconnection from time, where 1 second could be 5 billion years and 5 billion years could be 1 second. There is no time. As a matter of fact, I think that time is our prison. It felt like that. So I know what you mean, but I know what you mean not being unconscious, but being in a state of consciousness, of spiritual consciousness. That's the best I could possibly explain.
Well, this is a state of total unconsciousness.
Yeah.
No dreams, no knowledge of not being alive.
Just like comfort, though. Just
Oh
like,
yeah, well, comfort, because it's nothing.
yeah.
It's nothing. And I thought that was a little bit of an epiphany for me
Yeah.
there. So imagine a person who commits suicide and they say, well, he's in a better place now, or, he's whatever. Well, he is, or she is. They are in a better place.
So far as we know.
Because, yes, that's right. Because if it is that total unconsciousness, it is a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. But your brain was still firing. Your cerebral cortex was still active. You were in a kind of almost comatose place.
Mm-hmm.
Your brain is functioning, so you're still alive. It's just that you are so removed from the conscious processes of the day that it's excuse me, it's a nice place to be. Now I'll be a little bit more transparent with our one viewer.
What is, I see Noel keeps posting.
He says same. Noel says same. And he also says we're not alone. I agree. No, we're not alone. Raises all sorts of questions that we can't answer, doesn't it, Jay?
Well, obviously with Facebook, we're obviously not alone. Okay.
Yeah. I'm saying this about, the colonization of Mars. It's colonization for the sake of colonization. It's not colonization so that people can lead more fulfilling lives on Mars. Mars has evidence of tremendously large lava tunnels because it had a very active geological history billions of years ago. And these lava tunnels were jets, were the orifices out which lava came out into the open air. And there are evidence of these domed tunnels that exists on Mars still. And the theory is that when humans go to occupy Mars, ironically enough, we'll be Martian troglodytes. We will literally be Martian cave dwellers. And we will build inside the lava caves, and that we will have solar arrays above and be able to be protected from solar radiation below. So it's a cool concept. I just don't know what is it that is there that aside from scientific research of where is the big get? Is there gold?
The big get is that Israel will probably be fighting over it like the left bank. Let me just say to you, Seth, the problem with this kind of thinking is the same problem we had when we thought that robots would walk around the house cleaning up after us, when in fact they're software algorithms. Because we never envisioned the internet. We never envisioned cyberspace. And that's the same thing about this kind of thinking. If you think that this is going to be the leading edge of human endeavor and expansion, exploratory expansion, I would wager that no, it is not. Human expansion will be something like Kurzweil predicted when he said that this is the last generation that's going to die, because the next generation, they would have figured out how to download the brain, including the consciousness, into silicon. So to me, the next form of expansion is not going to be out there. It's going to be in here. And that, in fact, when we talk about solar panels and caves and environment and whatever, okay, that's from our technological thinking at the moment, whereas the big paradigm shift is going to be, no, that's not the frontier. The frontier is here.
I actually think the frontier is a spatial one. I think we occupy a midpoint between the enormity of the universe that we can travel and the enormity of the universe that exists inside molecules and in the negative space of atomic structure.
It's not in the middle. I've thought about that also. It's not in the middle, Seth. This is very, very, very much singularity. Yeah, that's one thing that we could talk about too. But you say it's spatial. Quantum physics would say it's time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or at least time has to be considered.
Yes.
When, I've always felt that time is one of the forces of the universe. It's not only the weak interaction and the strong interaction, radioactive decay and electromagnetism that you have to, and gravity, when you compare gravity to the rest of those forces, where's the rest of gravity?
Mm-hmm.
Gravity is immensely weaker than the rest of those physical forces of the universe.
Absolutely. And when they talk about, we found a habitable planet. It's 4 billion light years away. They say it's close. That's time.
Relatively.
It's close.
I tell you what, Jeff, I wonder if we could end there. I'm starting to have some more. I've been experiencing some back spasms.
Oh.
And it has been really killing me, and it's taken a physical and kind of an energy toll on me. So I've got to go tend to this because I'm having some problems.
Okay.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate your forbearance. I wanted to, we'll be back next week. I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in and out while you did. And thank you, Jack. And I will.
Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Noel. Good seeing you, buddy. And Jack and I are that much closer to our New York City walking tour trip. And we're also much closer, Jack, to Saturday mornings out. Saturday mornings out, buddy.
Next nice day, Seth. We're going to be sitting on the bench, drinking our coffee.
I need a shot. I need that fucking shot. That's what I need.
No kidding.
I need that shot.
And I'll have 2 shots by then, Seth. So
yeah, I need it. I need that shot. And once I get that shot, I'm going out. You can't keep me in.
Right.
But right now, you can't keep me off that couch. I will see you guys later. Thank you, buddies. And thank you, Jack.
Keep the faith.